So, the floodgates have finally opened on the Far Cry 6 previews. Now that we got some solid early reviews, we'll get to know the game much better than from any video game trailer or hyper-edited piece of marketing. And safe to say, so far so good. Overall, most reactions to the game are positive, and from a meaty hour-long gameplay stream yesterday, we got to learn a ton about what's in store without it being just gameplay of the first half hour of the game. You can't fully trust a video game until you get it in your own hands and get to play it for yourself, so it's hard to say right now whether or not Far Cry 6 is overall a solid addition to the Far Cry series. But we can talk about what we've learned so far from the streams, review articles, and videos that have all popped up over the span of yesterday and today. Flat out of the gate, one of the biggest consensus is that even though this isn't a completely brand new Far Cry experience, it is changing up the formula in enough of a way that there is a noticeable difference here. Though most reviews so far are of an early slice of the game, just a few hours of the beginning segments, some reviewers are nervous to see how that will hold up over the full experience of like a 50-hour game. The thing about Far Cry games is that they have a gradual refinement and progression between each game. From the first Far Cry to Far Cry 2, it introduced everything from the gunplay to the stealth system to the game engine. 3 added the RPG elements, skill tree stuff, and fully open world. Blood Dragon was just fucking awesome and only needs to exist. 4 added proper co-op and random world events. Primal added NPC companions. 5 revamped the whole open world to be more dynamic, and New Dawn was New Dawn. But the thing is, this refinement is either why you enjoy or don't enjoy the series. Far Cry doesn't take a lot of risks. It has the Ubisoft checklist we see in many of their games. Even in a way, it started the trend of having the checklist in the first place. For me, it's something I actually like about the series. I know what I'm getting, and what I'm getting is a damn good version of it. 6 is shaping up to be the most refined in the series, and is adding its own unique spins on tweaking and adding to the formula, like what past entries have had in a bunch of ways, and actually is more nuanced and varied than past entries have been. There have been improvements to stealth, making it feel better and even serve more gameplay roles than just stealthing to kill enemies, but actually using stealth to gather intel that you can use to find new locations across the map, where you can probably then go off and use stealth to kill some enemies. Liberating outposts is one of the gameplay mechanics people either love or hate in Far Cry games. Myself, I enjoy them, and the forts in 6 are looking really unique, from a small castle to an outdoor prehistoric expo that's got some really neat nods to Far Cry Primal. One of the biggest things about Far Cry 6 that's changing up are the weapons. We do have our normal guns we'd expect, but now they come with some nice tweaks and touches, like suppressors overheating and unique scope applications. But the best change to the weapon system is the introduction of resolver weapons and Supremo backpacks. These are definitely changing up the pace in a big way for the game. Far Cry generally has a blend of stealth and high-profile gameplay, but Resolver and Supremo backpacks seem to hinge strongly on the high-profile side of things in a sick way. There's still some awesome pieces for stealth though, like the Zucito cannon that will make their own changes to the pace of stealth liberations. But basically, Far Cry 6 is going to be one of the fastest paced Far Cry games when it comes to its combat. And another big change is the skill system and RPG elements that have been in every entry since Far Cry 3 for like 9 years now. It's changing for the skills being on clothes and armor. And this in itself is really cool, because now you'll need to really plan your loadout and clothing effects to try to get the best end result. Do you have a stealth outfit and quiet weapons, or fireproof clothes and flamethrowers? It's actually way more interesting than a typical skill system, and I think will be a ton of fun to experiment with. And lastly, the map looks absolutely gargantuan in scale. Easily one of the biggest Far Cry maps yet. And the islands seem to have miniature themes to them too. So hopefully the exploration in 6 is going to be vastly improved in comparison to 5 with the prepper stashes. Don't get me wrong, the prepper stashes were fine and some of them were pretty fun, but after a while they did get a little bit stale throughout the game, so hopefully in Far Cry 6 it'll take a more nuanced and varied approach to exploring these islands. It's hard to say if this will be the best Far Cry for everyone, but I do think Far Cry 6 is bringing a ton of good to the table. Even during all of the bullshit of COVID and the controversies of sexual harassment and abuse of power that's gone down at Ubisoft, I think Far Cry 6 looks way better off than it could have been in a worst case scenario. Honestly, there aren't too many things bothering me. Cutscenes look like what I expected of them. Graphics look more than good enough. Not stunning, but still some really nice atmospheres and vistas. And the new changes to me are extremely interesting. And even if these changes aren't absolutely massive in scale, I think that when they're all stacked together alongside the further refinement of the Far Cry formula, it'll lead to a really good Far Cry game. Not the best we've seen, but definitely one of the better entries. I've got a ton planned in store for Far Cry when it launches on the 7th of October, so maybe subscribe if you'd like to stick around and see what really could be done with the new changes in Far Cry 6. Cheers folks, and thank you for watching.
There you go. That's celebration right there.